Hi there, this is Debbie Henderson from Debbie's Designs. I'm so glad you stopped in today. I'm going to be showing you how to create this decorative corner card fold. This is a card that's secured together on all four corners, and this pops so it moves with the card when you open it. And this is what it looks like when it's sitting down. So let's get started with all of the supplies that you need today, and we do have quite a list. For cardstock, you need early espresso, 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and I'm going to show you how to score that. You also need a small piece measuring 1 inch by 5.5 inches. Hello Honey, we need 4 pieces, each measuring 5 1/4 by 1 7/8. And then to layer on top of the Hello Honey, these all measure the same size, but you need 1 Whisper White and 3 of the designer paper, measuring 5 inches by 1 5/8 inches. And the designer paper I'm using today is Going Places, which can be found in the Occasions catalog. And it has really neat designs, a lot of maps, topography, really neat patterns. So that can be found in the Occasions catalog. We will also be using the 2.5 inch circle punch, the 2 inch circle punch, the word window punch, and for stamp sets we're using the Botanical blooms, which is all the flower and leaf images on our card. The sentiment is the Miss You here that we see in the center, and that's from Starburst Sayings. And for the back of the card, where we have our white panel, I'm using the sentiment from Sweet Sayings, and we're using this one, My Heart Smiles Just Thinking of You. I wanted to show you out of the Occasions catalog. This is a really neat suite called the Botanical Garden Suite. We will be using the framelit dies today, and as I showed you, the stamp set. But you can also get coordinating designer paper, the jewels, and the washi tape. So this is a great suite. And of course, if you buy the stamp set and the framelits together as a bundle, you save 15% off. For inks, we're going to use Mossy Meadow, Delightful Dijon, and Early Espresso. You're also going to need a sponge dauber for the Delightful Dijon color. And lastly, we're going to be using the It's My Party enamel dots, and I keep mine in a small clear case, the smaller sized one. And I did forget, you are going to need a scrap of Early Espresso and Hello Honey. So let's get started on our project for today. We are going to start out by scoring our 2 layers of Early Espresso. So using the 1 inch layer, you put it down so the long side is vertically. You're going to score that at 1/2 inch. And then what we're going to do is fold that in half. So I'll do that with my bone folder in a minute. For the base, you're going to score at 2 1/8. Let me put this here so you can see it. So 2 1/8, 4 1/4, and 6 3/8. And I'll also list the sizes as we go through the video. So now we're going to bring in our bone folder and fold on all the score lines. And now we're going to open this up and glue the Hello Honey layers. So you've got 4 of those. And you have one going in between each score line. And this is really not a bad card to make. It's pretty quick once you add all your layers. So I know you can do it. I had a lot of requests from the card that I showed previously, which I should show you. This was the card that I had featured on my blog, and I had a lot of requests to show you how to make this. So that's where this card comes from. And thanks to all of you guys that liked it so much that you requested that I do a video. So now we're going to add the designer paper. And as far as the Whisper White layer, it doesn't matter where you add it. When you're putting your card together, the layers, it's going to obviously be your signature panel. So you want it facing in the back. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3 with the designer paper, and then we'll add the white. And if you prefer to stamp on it first so you don't make a mistake, this is where you would do your stamping. I'm going to bring in the early espresso and stamp my layer. So that's what all of the layers look like when you have this flat. Now we're going to assemble the card by bringing in the small piece. And I did forget to mention that I'm using a different sheet of designer paper just to show you how the look can differ. So now I'm going to add glue to just 1/2 of the small piece. And we're going to actually line this up. So I glued it on one end, as you can see. Now we're going to add adhesive to the second side. And all I'm going to do is fold this over, fold my card in half, and press it in place. So that's where you have your shaped box. It looks like a box card. So now I'm going to want this on the back. So I'm going to bring it in this way. And I did pre-cut most of the items that I need on my card just to save time. So I cut 2 of these using the Hello Honey. I cut these 2 leaves and stamped them with the Mossy Meadow ink using Pear Pizzazz. And I need to come back to these. These are actually, I wanted a shade lighter than the Hello Honey, as you can see. So I used crushed curry on these 2 pieces. Mossy Meadow on these 2 small flowers. And then for this flower, I used the crushed curry. And I used the Big Shot die brush. As you can see, it stays stuck in the die when you run it through. So all you need to do is run your Big Shot die brush over and it pops right out. I really love this tool. It works so well. And then I also cut 2 circles with early Espresso cardstock, and those were cut with a 1-inch punch. So now we're going to be working with the 1-inch circles. I'm going to bring in my scoring board one more time. And we're going to score in the center at 1/2 inch on each circle. So now I can put this away. We're going to fold both circles in half. Now these circles is what is going to build the portion in the center so that it flips like it does. So you keep your circles folded in half. We're going to add glue to just 1/2 of each circle. And I'm using the multi-purpose glue. You're going to locate the score line in the center. And you're going to press both circles side by side. And I'm just going to hold that for 30 seconds or so. And keep pressing. And this is what they look like when they're don't know if you can see that. You see where this is still open on each side. So now I'm going to set this aside for a minute, and I'm going to bring in the 2.5 inch circle punch with the early espresso cardstock and the 2 inch punch with the Hello Honey cardstock. We're going to glue those together and layer them. And then this is where you start the assembly. So I'm going to bring this in so you can see how I did the card. You bring in the scrap piece of paper. I'm going to bring in the Delightful Dijon ink, which is a little bit darker. And I'm just going to add some color to the center of each flower. This is just going to add a little bit of detail. Next, I'm going to bring in the early espresso ink, and we're going to add centers to this flower. And that is from the Botanical Blooms. As you notice, there's 2 of them right here, and I just picked either one works. And I'm just going to add a couple of these. Just make sure the center meets the center. And it's funny because it looks kind of messy because of course we have missing portions, but when you layer the 2 flowers together, they sort of complete the look of the center from this stamp. So now we're going to glue these flowers together. Just going to add just a drop of ink in the center, and then we're going to offset the petals. Press in place. And you can see what I mean once you add the 2 layers together, the center looks really cool. Now I'm just going to take my paper piercer and lift up on the petals because those are cut separately and they're not cut off, so you can pop them to give you that 2-dimensional look. Isn't that neat? Okay, so now let's start gluing down our other pieces. And I just kind of added these in the background just to make the center flower pop a little bit. So they kind of look like leaves. And then we're going to bring in the pear pizzazz. And I do let them overhang the circle a little bit. And I'm going to use a stamping dimensional to glue my flower in place. So now all we have left is to add the sentiment. Let me pop these up again. So for the sentiment, we're just going to bring in a small piece of Whisper White with the early espresso ink. And I'm going to cut that with the word window punch. And I'm going to go real close to the end of the U only because I am tucking this in. And because of the length, I'm going to have to trim the end just a little bit. We'll add glue to the back. And we will just slide that in there like so. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with these 2 pieces. I'm going to add a little bit of the Hello Honey ink, and I'm just going to kind of roll my sponge in a circular motion to get some of that ink on there, just so I don't ruin the petals. And you see how that does add a little bit of shadow to your leaves. So now we are ready to glue these two leaves on. And I think I'm actually going to glue the circle on first, so I'll know where to tuck my leaves. So all you're going to do is add glue to the two circles. And then we're going to press this in place. And make sure your sentiment is straight. And then you can just slide these under. And now lastly, we're going to bring in the enamel dots and just add a few on the bottom. And let's pop these up one more time. And then your card will stand this way, and the corner, the decorative corner part, moves as you open your card. Isn't that neat? So now I have two different cards with the same design, but with different designer paper used for the background. So you can pick your favorite. I hope you'll try this. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll have all the supplies I used at the end of my video. See you later.